gonna get heard. Nobody needs to worry. Anybody has any questions, they're gonna get answered, okay? So, why don't we have Martha take the lead here, and, then I'll jump in. For
Yeah, so Attorney Bradel did all the work for it. See, I just had to sit there. But representing Kelsey Fitzsimmons, as everybody knows, it's been a privilege of ours, it's an honor. And I think today we saw a new day. Right, we had a different attitude. We had an approach to what we wanted in this case, which was everybody's entitled to a fair trial. Kelsey Fitzsimmons is innocent until she's proven guilty. We believe she's innocent. And we look forward to, in a very short period of time, bringing this case before the court on the merits. I think we made a lot of progress today. We appreciate that this judge was willing to listen, to try it, resolve questions, to resolve problems, not create problems. And so I think on balance, given where we were a while ago, we made a lot of progress today. And we have a lot of work to do, but we will do it and we look forward to it. As does our client.
Attorney, when was the last time that Kelsey was able to see
I'm gonna let Attorney Bradel address that.
I mean, just in a very general sense, it's been a long road. It's been a rough road. We're coming to the end of it, and we have two jobs here: reunification, number one, and to address this case, number two. We really need to get this thing done so we can focus on family court, and it's coming soon. So we're optimistic, and we're going to do everything we can to get this case heard on the 23rd and get it done.
Are you representing Kelsey Family Court as well?
So it's a group effort. Yeah, she's got a great team over there. Julie has as lead counsel in family court, and we're supporting her. And she's sort of been hamstrung because of these orders from this court, basically saying, warding the family court from doing their job. So we expect that to be addressed soon, and we're optimistic, and we're very happy to have Judge Karp on the case. And we think we're going to get a fair shake, and I think he's going to address it very soon. And that's, Kelsey's number one priority.
What's the disclosure?
How much on that?
Yeah,
You should step up and
I am more hopeful with this.
Why is that?
So seems reasonably fair when a judge is supposed to act.
So we're all encouraged by that, and Kelsey wants to kind of let us take the wheel today in terms of talking to you guys, but that's something that we feel has not been present in this case, and it is going forward, and we're going to address things on the merits, and we feel like we're going to be heard. We feel like we're going to get heard by the court, and things are going to be okay.
Obviously, a big part of the hearing today was focusing on that video and what actually happened. What do you want the court to take next?
In terms of what?
In terms of that video, do you think that there should be a conflict of interest ruled by the court or the district?
Yes, we believe there's a conflict of interest and that it can be addressed by the court, but Judge Karp's got to make his rulings, and we respect his rulings wherever they are. And if it has to go that way, then we'll take another route. But we feel that, we believe that the DA's office here has an interest in propping up that witness, and the alleged crimes there should be evaluated by an independent prosecutor.
What was the disclosure that was made? They talked about a disclosure from the prosecution.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what that disclosure was?
So we're asking for a disclosure. This is excuse me. This is a standard request that we want promises, rewards, inducements that have been granted or implicit in any witness's relationship with the prosecution. And it's very standard discovery. We wanted to push the Commonwealth and push the judge to really provide meaningful, in the sense of we want all the communications surrounding that, if any, and we want something in writing from the Commonwealth about what they're doing with these witnesses that are apparently getting a pass on alleged criminal activity.
And I think because the judge has asked us, and counsel have agreed to do a witness list, we will see who all those witnesses are going to be. And then if we need to move further on any of those questions, you heard the judge say he does not want this to be a trial by ambush. It's true. So both sides should really know what we are going to be arguing about going forward. And that's the work we have to do next days. The judge, as you see, is going to look at that, reconsider some requests on the bail on March 12th, which we think is a good sign in terms of getting ready for trial and making sure we're ready. But we feel confident that he understands that both sides deserve a fair trial, and we're looking forward to working with him and moving forward.
Jim, after the
You
sidebar,
guys, wait, how about, let's go our left to right and we'll get everybody. I promise we'll get everybody, don't worry.
yeah, after the sidebar, it sounded almost like there was some admission that there was an inducement as it related to Justin Alea. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, I think given the exhibits that we filed and the motion we filed, it's pretty obvious that, you know, there's some potential exposure there to put it politely. And the government is acknowledging that it's implicit in the situation, I think, that if they're looking the other way and they need to put something in writing to that effect.
So,
Yeah.
well, didn't they say, they looked at the evidence, they looked at what you submitted, they considered the whole context of the case, and they decided no charges were warranted? Why do you feel like they weren't in a position to make that decision, and why do you feel like they have an interest in propping him up? The prosecutor said he's actually not that important.
Well, you know, it's not a question of whether they're important or not. And this is the first we've heard of it today. This is the first time that we kind of flushed them out to actually say that they're, you know, we kind of flushed them out today that they finally said that for the first time that, you know, we'll give you the notice that we're not prosecuting him. We don't think it's a criminal case. I think the fact finder will have that ultimate decision in terms of whether or not, you know, there's a behavior that's relevant to their determination.
I want to ask on the North Andover police officer, you're planning to file a Rule 17 motion to get what exactly, like, where do you think there is?
So, good question, Charlie. So we don't know, you know, the way discovery works is the courts always ask the defense, well, what do you want, counsel? I'm like, I want what the rule says. I don't know what's out there. It's the prosecutor's job to go figure out what's out there. And so we investigate our case, you get bits and pieces of information, and we use that information to point the prosecution to certain relevant evidence, certain specific evidence that we said that we can say to them, go look here, go look there. You know, it's not incumbent on us to know exactly what it is. They have a legal duty to go find it, but especially if we say, look in this particular location. So that's all we're doing.
You said they on the fence about whether or not Zion will testify. Does that mean on the fence about whether it's a mental health defense or have you made a decision?
So everything's still on the table. Everything's up in the air and everything's still on the table. You know, we don't know. I guess it can't be up in the air and on the table. You get what I'm saying?
Kelsey, can we just tell us how difficult it's been to prepare for a trial while not being here with your son?
I don't want to comment on it.
I mean, as you can imagine, she's pulled in a million different directions here, and you know, we have to get down to business, and you know that's hard for somebody in her position. And you know, I have immense respect for her perseverance, as all of us do.
Kelsey, are there any misconceptions you'd like to clear
On
up?
the motion about the bail, what else are you prioritizing? Obviously, you got the time requirement.
Yeah. So we just want to get Kelsey some freedom and some access. There's these repetitive conditions that are just incredibly onerous in a case where someone doesn't even face jail time on the other end of it under the sentencing guidelines. So it's a unique situation where I've never had a case where the likely outcome in the sense of a conviction would have been probation, and then that person gets locked up pre-trial is unprecedented in my 30 years. So we want to get her in an appropriate bail situation from a fair judge. That's what we're here for.
And
Is
we
the
should
12th
say
too late?
that she's been in compliance with all of these conditions, onerous as they are. And I think asking today for the court to reconsider that in light of that, in light of where we are, and his willingness to do so, said he would entertain other issues that we brought up on March 12th.
Is that too late?
Got to
though,
get
the
up to
12th?
speed on it.
The 12th is kind of late. It's like a week out, right?
Well, we'll take what we can get, you know, you have to take what we can get.
Kelsey, are there any misconceptions you'd like to clear up? Anything you'd be comfortable saying?
I don't want her to kind of just start pontificating about a lot of things, but you know, she's been through a lot and, you know, she just wants us to kind of go through it. Mike, go ahead.
Special prosecutor, the judge seemed like he was gonna do anything about it. What can you do about it? Cause it looks like this guy did some criminal stuff. I mean, just looking at it, it seems like it.
He's the judge, you know, he's, the judge is focused on the notion of separation of powers. The way I see it, you know, I've read many cases where the court decides, they say, hey, this person has a conflict of interest. They reverse convictions. They do all sorts of things. So I don't see how this is any different. You know, but I respect Judge Carp immensely and, you know, he sees it as a separation of powers issue. We're gonna have to grapple with it in another way. You know, we could file a request for a clerk's hearing. We may do that. We don't know. We have to think about it, react to, you know, the situation, and we just got that information today, so we'll have to see. Yes. Anybody else? Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about where is the motion to recuse McCarthy? Where does that stand right now?
So it was denied as moot,
Okay.
and Judge Raschuti, the chief judge of the Superior Court, he took it over and he made that ruling, and he took Judge McCarthy out of the case. And as far as we're concerned, that means that Judge Carp is the judge. You know, we can't have it halfway where he doesn't want to make any rulings and defer to a judge that's not going to sit on the case. So
How confident are you that he's going to rule that Judge Carp will be overseeing this whole case in its entirety?
I think very confident. I think that makes sense. I don't think
Judge
that,
Park said he was going to ask it.
Yes.
And he felt confident that that was occur. It makes sense to have the same judge now make all the decisions that are applicable pre-trial, for the trial, including available to the and so we're hopeful that, as Judge Park noted, he will be in charge of this case for the trial, whatever comes up.
Can I ask one more question? I was surprised to hear that this whole time Kelsey's been able to drive. I know that you spoke about her being apprehensive, having trauma after being, you know, incarcerated after that last bail hearing. Is this something that you either overlooked or you were just out of an abundance of caution, she wasn't transporting herself? You know, it seems like it came out of this discussion today that she's been able to do it all along, or at least Judge Carp's interpretation of the order is that she could be doing this.
so there were all sorts of verbal pronouncements from the prior judge. And, you know, given what happened to Kelsey, we have to be extremely careful. And, you know, there were all sorts of verbal restrictions that apparently didn't get into the contract. But we were certainly in no position to take any liberties with everything she said, especially given her inclination to put Kelsey in jail. So we had to go with everything verbal that was put out there as well, and that was definitely put out there.
So Judge
Joseph.
said, good to see you again. What's your experience arguing?
Judge Carp, I haven't seen Judge Carp in probably over a decade, and you know, Judge Carp's been a very respected jurist for I think about a decade, and probably 25 years ago, we were both in the Suffolk DA's office
Wow.
in different units.
Can I ask what that is?
Oh, so good question, Jess. So we
DVR.
got the surveillance system back today
Wow.
from the House. And so now, you know, it's been gone through with a prosecutor's eye. And now we get to go through it with a defense eye. So to be determined, stay tuned on that one.
Hey, Tim, we learned today for the first time that the Commonwealth decided, hey, we're not going to prosecute based on what we advised them of back in August.
Yeah.
Have the federal authorities been informed of potential issue, bank fraud, wire fraud? things like that?
So one of the predicates for pursuing that is that you have to file a complaint with it's an FBI sponsored agency. And we're gonna look at that and we're gonna talk to Kelsey about that as well. So that may be an avenue.
What if you did go before the clerk magistrate and they go forward with the DA's office be now prosecuting or
Mike, wouldn't that put them in an awkward position? So if the clerk magistrate finds probable cause and issues complaints, then I think it would be something that would put their feet to the fire about whether they prosecute it or whether they pass it along to an independent prosecutor. So let's see what happens.
Or to another county. They have the option of going to another DA's.
can I ask Kelsey how you feel about some new freedom? It's bittersweet. It's only to Tim's office, but you're able to leave your home, you're able to drive. How does that feel knowing that you have that freedom today?
It's a step in the right direction. Only a few weeks away from trial. This is definitely the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my life, and we're just gonna keep standing strong and make it to trial.
Thanks, everybody.
Everybody
Yeah.
good? Thank-
I saw Hank Brennan in the elevator today.
Oh my God.
Any interest, special prosecutor?
I would love for Hank to get his hands on this and, you know, somebody,
Here for that.
we'll take anybody. I think he had some other business today. He's still a defense lawyer as well.
Thank you all. Watch the
Thank you.
cobblestones if you're at
Thank you.
your side.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a good day.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah.
Man with the DVR.
I figured they're going around the horn again. I figured- Good one. Yeah, they said, I said.
What's up, people? Yeah, it was
I said.
a long court hearing. And very interesting. One of the things that we learned today was that Justin Alain, let me say that again, Justin Alain went to the police when he was about to enter Kelsey's home and asked them for a police escort, said he lived there. He lied after he had changed his address. So he changed his story between the restraining order that he filed when he said he had moved into his parents' house. And then later on, a few days later, he's calling the North Andover police asking for a police escort into Kelsey's home. And he says he still lives there. Conflicting statements. I think it's going to come up. I think it's going to come up in the trial. It's going to be interesting to see. We'll be live on Sunday night with a special guest, retired FBI agent Jody Weber. Sunday night's going to be back on the Young Jerks. We're going to be talking all about this. You heard the federal crime camp come up today? We're going to ask her about that. That was a good question from Michael from Justice Served. So we'll be talking about that on Sunday night. Hope to see everyone there. Checking out Lawrence Bass. It's the first time I've been here in quite a while. I'll see everyone soon, maybe later tonight.